Hello ladies and gentlemen, for today's drawing we're going to start off with materials. The first thing you will need is going to be a mechanical pencil, pen, watercolor, paintbrush, and a cup of water. Typically you can find these materials at your local dollar store for under $10. Alright guys, let's move on with our first step, and that is grabbing a sheet of paper, placing it down on your table so that you can start taping down all edges of your paper. Keep in mind that using tape will help you maintain the position of your paper, and it will also help you create a frame outside of your drawing. Okay, looks like we taped down all edges of the paper. Looks good. Let's move on. Next step is paint a background. I am choosing the color yellow in order to have a light background. The reason why I want a light background is because my foreground shapes are going to be a little bit darker and I want to see the contrast. But keep in mind, this is your painting, so you can choose the color of your preference. Next, we're going to draw a general outline. This is a quick, light sketch to help you position your rose wherever you want it. I want it in the center, so I am doing a quick sketch for my rose in the center. Make sure that the sketch is very light because we are going to erase it later on. Okay, next is the oval guidelines. I'm gonna do these oval shapes so that I can start seeing where to place my inner petals and my outer petals, like so. And we're moving on to the next step. Alright guys, let's start with our inner petals. Typically this is where we start shaping our rose. I like to start from the middle and go outward. Alright, let's start speeding up this process just a little bit. Keep in mind that you are allowed to use a picture as a reference just to understand the nature of the petal and how they're laid out on a rose. Alright, moving on to our next step, and that's creating the outer petals. These petals are typically reaching out, they're further apart, they're not as clustered as the inner petals. Once you have that done, you can go under and start drawing the base of the rose. Next, we're going to draw the stem and the leaves. Make sure to draw them outward. Here, just give yourself an idea of how the leaves or the branches would be laid out. Remember, you can use a picture or an actual flower for reference. Now we're going to erase the sketch marks. Remember, in the beginning of the video I said to lightly sketch the position of your rose. After that, we're going to add some detail. Here we start adding texture to the leaves, texture to the leaves under the rose, and then we're going to start adding thorns to the stem and making it look like an actual flower or rose. You know, depending on the flower that you're making. I'm making a rose, so we're adding texture. Now we start applying the watercolor. This is the fun part. I start painting my rose red. Notice how I paint and then sometimes I dab with a napkin. And that is a technique that I learned a long time ago. Sometimes watercolor can be very heavy if we're not careful with the water and paint. And so if you want it lighter, just lightly tab. Now guys, remember, this is art, so you can color your flower with whatever color you prefer. Next, we will let it dry for a couple of minutes. Here we start tracing our details that we drew with our pencil. I like to use fine point pens. That way you can be more accurate with the tracing and it gives it a sharper look. Okay guys, now we're tracing the petals. Alright guys, last step is to do the extra. This is what I encourage my viewers to always do. Do the extra, go above and beyond. This is the chance where you can start being very creative, express yourself, and just go with the flow. What I'm doing here is simply just tracing the lighter parts of my watercolor paint. That way it can add this liquefying look to it. And we're done, guys. Remember to remove the tape. Be careful. Sometimes the paper can stick to the tape, so you can do it slowly as possible. Here I'm just kind of ripping it off. I should have done it slower. But yeah, we're done. And see how the tape creates an outer frame of the drawing? Now you don't have to worry about the edges. Remember, guys, to sign your work. All real artists sign their work. You could put it in the front and the back, but just make sure that they know it's yours. Alright, guys, we're done. Make sure to pat yourself on the back for a great job. And you can put this on your wall, mail it to someone, or just simply keep it. In our next video, I'll show you how to make a rose with a piece of napkin. Ta-da! Alright, make sure to like, subscribe, and until next time, this is your fellow artist, Chapco, signing off.